Okay, so following on from the previous video that I hope you saw in the playlist here, I'm going to break down one of my first commander decks. As I described before, this is a modular commander that I've made using the same mana base that is in a previous video. There'll be a link to it somewhere if you want to go and check that out. But now we're going to break down the other half of the deck. So this deck is built around, obviously, as you can see here, our commander Niv-Mizzet, always the same. You flip him, you play him, he enters, you flip the top 10 cards, put a card of every 2-color combination into your hand. Great. And we have built it with the companion Jegantha the Wellspring, which is a 5-mana 5/5 that has the ability to tap and add Wooburg, but these mana can only be used to cast colored spells. So you can't use it for generic costs, you have to use it for colored mana. So the joke I say is Jegantha's purpose is to cast Niv-Mizzet, which it isn't, but it's a little joke that me and my friends have. Then the restriction to have Jegantha as your companion is that no card in your deck can have the same mana symbol. So that means you can't have a double white card, a double black card, or, incidentally, as I've learned since I started playing it, you can't have the same generic cost. So you can't have an XX, or for example a split card that might say red and 1 and blue and 1, because those two ones are the same mana cost, mana symbols technically, which was something I was not aware of. So we'll break this deck down in parts here. This is a unique-ish deck. This deck only uses the land base because it, incidentally, it just uses the 40 lands and the rest of these cards in it. So since we're not running the cards in it, we'll just cover the rest of the ramp that's unique to this deck. So we have Farseek, which and free visits, early game ramp to help us out. We then have the Command Sphere. It's not the greatest mana rock, but I think the ability to just crack it to help find something we need is always good. Then we have one more non-double color card here, which is the Widespread Thievery, which is a 3-mana enchantment that has Hideaway 5, and whenever we cast a multicolored spell, we make a treasure token. That's the key bit you got to worry about. Also has the ability that for Wooburg we can cast the Hideaway card, which is pretty good all in all. The rest of our incidental ramp is 2-color, or fixing, sorry. We have the Safe Ride Quest, which is a 1-mana Selesnya hybrid that can find us a plains or forest. Note, doesn't specify basic. We have our Growth Spiral, which is the pretty Japanese full art Growth Spiral. Very happy to have this. Really want more of them. We then have a Kellen, the Inquisitive Prodigy. Now his main deal is obviously that he has the Tail the Suspect adventure, which lets us basically do another land drop if we have in our hand. And finally we have World Soul's Rage, which doubles as a damage output but also as a ramp spell, because it gets lands back from our graveyard, and since we run all 10 fetches, we'll probably have them in our graveyard. So that's the ramp package we run that's unique to this deck. Next we'll just run over some key categories really quickly, the smaller, less incremental stuff. So first thing we'll cover is our rebuy value, stuff we can use to buy back. We have Reborn Hope, which gets us a multicolored card from our graveyard. We have Treasured Find, which gets us a card from our graveyard, but we have to exile it. And then we have the Cosmic Rebirth, which buys us back a permanent card from our graveyard and gains us life. So nice and easy there. Next we'll cover our board wipes. This deck runs quite a few, so, well, it runs 4. So we have Last Man Standing, which is basically a board wipe that leaves 1 random creature on the field available. The Oversimplify, which exiles all creatures and everyone gets a fractal equal to the combined power. If you're facing down a huge board, it's probably not the greatest, but it's good for dealing with troublesome creatures that you don't want to come back. We have Solar Blaze, which destroys all creatures by having them deal damage to themselves. And then finally we have situational ones. We have the Culling Ritual, which has gone up in my estimation so much more recently because Commander's getting faster, 1-drops and 2-drops are way more prevalent in the format, and incidental tokens like food, treasure, clues are everywhere. So this, 9 times out of 10, casting this in a 4-player commander game will literally give you the mana to put Jegantha into hand and cast it, so very much given. And finally we have kind of a board wipe slash got you here with the Ink Shield, which can be good as kind of like a haha got you moment, but you know, it's hard to classify because it's technically a fog, but I view it as a kind of a board wipe, nullifying an attack or presence. So then we'll just cover, we got 2 little cards here that just incidentally dig. We don't run many because Niv actually does a lot of digging in this deck for us. We have the Wandering Mind and Expressive Iteration, both cards that look at the top few cards to find us answers. Then we run into our tutors, which we only have technically 3. So we have Limdor's Vault, which is a look at the top 5 and then put them back in any order. You can do that over and over. We have the classic Bring to Light here, which is always a mainstay. This better be in Pioneer Masters. Spoilers are starting as I'm recording this, so I really hope it is. And finally the Ring Sight, which tempts us and lets us search for a card that's the same color as a legendary we control. We have a 5-color commander, so odds are if we're casting this, we should be in a pretty good situation to tutor something. It can be a gotcha though if someone gets it. Right, with that gone, we're now going to cover the bulk of our deck, which is the interactive spells. Now, I've said before, the way I like playing Niv-Mizzet is because he reloads our hand, I play a lot more selective removal to deal with threats and ping down people that might be ahead of me. The reason I like this in Commander, and I'll discuss it more in details later, is individual removal of a problematic thing or player can win you the table's favor. Very often someone will race ahead in Commander, and your ability to like kneecap them, slow them down, and let everyone get back into the game, I think is way more valuable than just hitting a nuke and resetting the board. That will not draw as much ire as, hey guys, I'm going to blow up the problematic enchantment that's made it hard for us to play the game. So with that in mind, these are our interactive spells. We have Drown in the Loch, very good all catch spell. The Hull Breach, destroys artifacts or enchantments. Assassin's Trophy to take out any permanent. Rip Apart, again, artifacts or enchantments or 3 damage to a creature. Azorius Charm, obviously we're running the 2 colored spells here to deal with stuff. This lets us bounce or deal lifelink. I don't know why the camera's suddenly going out of focus. Nope, don't want that on. Weird that it's having trouble focusing. Alright, we then have the Dovin's Veto, the classic can't be countered, deals with things. We then have Despark to deal with big permanents, 4 mana or greater. A Terminate to in a Tyrant Scorn. This card is something that a lot of people overlook in Commander. The ability to bounce a problematic thing at a key moment is really great, but also this can be used defensively to buy back creatures that you don't want to lose. So it's one that I always tell people to look out for. So that's the first 9. We are not done. We have a few more. We then have a Rakdos Charm, which is a classic in Commander. It destroys an artifact, exiles graveyards, and can maybe do a funny win if you get the right situation. Maelstrom Pulse, way more prevalent now that incidental tokens like those clues and food are now everywhere. K-Command, like I said, model spell's really good. In line with that, we have the Flame of Andor, which does destroys artifacts, does damage or draws cards. Kaya's Guile is a modal spell that can be overloaded to give us all the options. Struggle to Survive. This is a nice card, I think, in this inclusion. It is an instant damage equal to the number of lands you control, but also, incidentally, the Survive side is a reshuffle everyone's graveyard, so incidental graveyard hate is always welcome. We then have a Mortify with the Japanese showcase art, a Vindicate, a Anguished Unmaking, and finally a card which I'm not sure about yet because it's very rarely come up. We have Odin Searing Light, which basically forces everyone to sack a creature in Boros. Well, exile a creature. It's proven okay to me. Well, it's the greatest power creature. But yeah, that's our interactive package. So that we want to buy time with that. And you might notice we don't have anything that's too crazy. So, well, how do we leverage that? Well, we'll talk about our bombs here. So these are things which will grind us value in the deck. We have General Furious Roderick, always included in here. Makes a 4/4 every time we cast a multicolored spell. We have the new edition of Ren the Relentless, which exiles creatures when they die and makes us huge rat tokens that basically come in with Coat of Arms effect. We have Jensen Kephelion. He is technically a mana fixer, but also incidentally scries every time we cast a multicolored spell, which is 90% of our deck here. We have Rada, Herald of the Wild. This is also like a way to get extra land drops, but also like a nice little pump to just take someone out in the late game. We have Lila, the Undefeated Trick Shot. This card is absolutely insane if it resolves and stays around. Whenever we cast a multicolored instant or sorcery spell from our hand, and you saw how many we have, it gains plot, which means that it will be exiled and we can cast it for free on our next turn. Absolutely insane. We have Uro, the Titan of Nature's Wrath. Very strong card you don't need to be told about. Draw, gains life, makes a land drop, but also it's just a huge threat that keeps coming back unless they can exile it. Then we have Reseller, the the Kingpin. She is basically an initiative creature. For those who don't know, she introduces the concept of the initiative, which gives the basically Undercity into the game. I really enjoy her in the deck. I think the initiative is a pretty good mechanic for multiplayer, not for single player in any way. But yeah, she's a way to get the initiative into the game or steal it back. We now have Cardor the Doom Scourge. For those who don't know, when he enters, every creature your opponents control is goaded, and your opponents themselves are goaded, so they must attack until your next turn. It's a good way to break a board state and also just give you some incremental advantage that way. Then we have a 4th Aeolingus, which makes us X 2/2 hasty trampling knights and can give us the Monarch when we hit an opponent. Great ender here, particularly if we can get up to some high mana value. Also, just doing it for 2 and incrementally getting an extra draw emblem into the game is very good. So those 9 are big things here. And finally, just for sake of value, we have 2 Planeswalkers. We have Oko, the Thief of Crown, and Wrenn of 6. Wrenn of 6, obviously, because we run a ton of the fetch lands, and that ability to just constantly buy back a fetch land to help us with our fixing is great. On turn 2 in Commander, most people don't have a threat down, so it's hard for them to answer right away. And Oko is just Broco. That +1 to Elk, an opponent's commander, can literally disable an entire deck and make him the biggest target on the board. Now those threats are pretty good, but you can guess that they're pretty grindy. So we do run a couple of combos in this deck to finish things off. So the first one I want to talk about is the Sea to Cradle Witch, which you might just look at and think, how the heck is this a combo? For 4 mana, we can give a creature +3/+3 and untap it. So we run both the Faber Elder and the Bloom Tender in here. So if we can get these 2 down with our commander down, we get basically infinite mana here because we tap for 5, use 4 to untap it, so we can make infinite Grixis. Well, infinite +1 copy of 5 color, which usually is enough to end things off. As you saw, we have a couple of X spells that can do it that way. Or, because this is also an instant speed ability, we can get the Faber Elder in and then make it infinitely huge to kill someone. Nice little addition trick there. But yeah, that's an infinite mana hold there. It's the rarer combo. Here are the 2 main combos that win this deck 90% of the time. So the first one we run is my favorite combo of all time, the Felidar Guardian Saheeli Rai combo. I like this combo in the deck because, as I said, Saheeli -2 copying a Niv is a great addition of value, and Felidar Guardian flickering a Niv is also great value. So obviously, if these 2 are on the battlefield, we can -2 the Saheeli to make a copy of Felidar Guardian, which will blink Saheeli, giving us another Felidar Guardian, which will blink Saheeli, getting us to -2, make infinite hasty Felidar Guardians. The other combo we run in here is that we run the Mox Amber Displacer Kitten and the Teferi, the Time Raveler. So for those of you unfamiliar with this combo, if you have Teferi and Displacer Kitten on the battlefield, you can -3 the Teferi to draw a card and bounce something. Then you can play the Mox Amber, which will trigger Displacer Kitten and let you exile Teferi, resetting him. You can then tap this for mana of any color that you want, provided you have the legendary permanents. So in this case we could do it for blue or white. Then we can use Teferi's minus to bounce the Amber back to our hand, draw a card, replay it, repeat the loop ad nauseum, draw a whole deck, gain infinite white and blue to find some other way of doing the combo. But yes, that is our first deck. This is the more powerful version. Please pair that with the lands. Let's see how that looks.